Hello, I'm Scott Clover, and you're listening to the Intuitive Energy Podcast. This podcast series is about intuition, healing, and creating new energetic patterns that benefit you in your daily life. In my private practice, I help people heal from a diverse range of issues, including self-acceptance, trauma release, managing anxiety, emboldening self-worth, and creative expression. In this episode, Rituals, Intentions, and Imagination, Carl and I talk about my daily protective practices, how you can use imagination to customize your own rituals and intentions, why stopping to honor yourself is vital, and why hack should be considered a four-letter word. Enjoy!
Carl Munson here with Scott Clover's Intuitive Energy Podcast. It's great to be talking to you again, Scott. It's been a while.
It has. Thanks, Carl.
And we are going from season 1, where we talked about intuition more generally and interpersonal dynamics. And season 2 is all about intuitive care and development and the importance of self-acceptance. I'm looking forward to this. And in today's episode, episode 1 of season 2, we're looking at rituals, intentions, and imagination. The sort of stuff that you're going to be doing to take care of yourself, right? Behind the scenes, as it were.
Yeah, even like a day in the life of an intuitive energy healer. What are some of the subtle things or energetic rituals that I do on a daily basis to help keep me grounded and keep me protected energetically?
Yeah. Okay. I guess it's quite elemental that, your considerations here. You're really sort of tapping into the elements, earth, fire, air, and water.
Yeah, exactly. Earth, fire, air, and water is a good way to talk, because I'm going to talk a little bit about why water is important, why air is important, why I use a candle, why grounding to the earth is important. We're going to cover all those topics today, I think.
Oh, brilliant. So probably the best place to start is the day in the life of an intuitive energy healer. What's the first thing you do in the morning?
Drink a glass of water.
and presumably not tap water.
Correct. Yeah, I'm a big believer in filtering your water. Water didn't have chlorine and fluoride in it 100 years ago. Water came out of the streams and the rivers where people would drink it in the sunlight even. So, yeah, I use a filter, double osmosis or reverse osmosis filter that takes out fluoride, chlorine, any of the things that they put in that they think are cleaning the water, humans aren't supposed to ingest.
Okay.
Right? Have you ever gone in the shower and you smell chlorine in the bathroom before you step in and you think, good Lord, is that going in my body also?
Too often. Yes, I know exactly.
Yeah. So one of the things I do with water, which I think is very important because it's a mainstay of our lives and we're also 60, 70% water, is I try to put the cleanest water I can in my body. No excuses. If I'm forced to buy a bottle of water at a store out of a plastic bottle, I'll do that. But generally, I try to drink my water filtered, re-electrolyted, meaning putting minerals and electrolytes back in the water. Because once you take everything out, that wasn't the way we used to drink water either. We used to drink water out of streams that had a bunch of earthly minerals in it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you get these fancy filters and they take out 99.999% of everything. The human body isn't designed to drink pure H2O. Then it has to take minerals out of your own body to regulate the water in your body.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So you can filter everything out of the water, but then it's best you put stuff back in. A little Himalayan salt, a little sea salt, anything that has electrolytes in it. And you can get those at stores. You can make your own. You can Google that. It's more to taste, but don't put pure water back in your body because then your body has to try and regulate it to mineralization. And that can take the minerals out of your own body. So.
Interesting. Okay, so going back to the thing you said about chlorine in the shower, presumably then you have a slightly different showering or bathing regime as well.
Well, I have a filter on my shower at home that takes the chlorine out. It doesn't take the fluoride out because that's more intensive process. Uh-huh. So the fluoride filter I have in my kitchen that I use for drinking water. Yeah.
Okay, but I understand you have a slightly different sort of approach to bathing, as in baths as well, right?
Well, I definitely, when I do take a bath with that, which I enjoy a lot, I like swimming. I try to find a gym that has a saline or salt pool as opposed to one that's overly chlorinated. Uh-huh. But at home, yeah, I like to take baths because it's energetically grounding. But then there's also ways you can take a bath and really have it benefit you. And so I put a lot of salt. I buy a big cheap bag of sea salt for 50 cents. and I'll put half that big bag of salt in, or Epsom salt is a really, really good way to calm a bath. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, then you can also put a couple drops of your favorite essential oil. If you're trying to bolster part of you or get rid of something, you can put some frankincense in or some clove oil, anything that you think is going to make you feel good. It's the intention behind what you're doing, the intention behind the ritual, which is just as important as the ritual itself.
Okay. And before we move on then to, because I mean, this is a balance here, isn't it, of the things you're doing for your physical body, as well as what you might call your energetic body. And this is helping people, I mean, helping you essentially in the first place to manage your energy. And what we're talking about today might help others manage their sense of overwhelm and maintain, better well-being and better health. Anything else you want to say to do with the more, I know it's connected, but the more sort of physical side? So we've talked about water. What's your sort of food regime and your approach to food?
I try to eat organic as possible. That's not so easy at restaurants when restaurants used to be open. But I generally strive to eat the healthiest, non-overproduced food. It's not always easy. I do enjoy pizza and everything else like everyone else, but I, make an effort. Put some intention in your food. One of the things also is I grace the food before I eat it. So I put my hands over the food. It's something we do in my household. And then I put my hands over the food and say a ritual, say some sort of incantation to the food about blessing it, blessing the people that made it, where the food came from. Come up with your own. But that food's going to end up in your body, and that food's going to end up supplying you with nutrients. So what a great way to start that off by presenting your energy to it and be grateful for the food that you have.
That is pretty profound, isn't it? It's a bit like there was a Japanese guy, wasn't there, who did those experiments to show that actually, water, I think especially, and food do respond in this way energetically.
Yeah, you're talking about Masaru Emoto. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, Masaru Emoto, he believes and has proven that water holds resonance and water holds intentions. So one of the things I do when working with water, for example, is you can take a piece of paper and tape it to a glass water pitcher or water bottle and put an intention on that water. So generally the basic one that Emoto talks about is love and gratitude. If you write love and gratitude and paste it on the side of the water is going to eventually take on some of those qualities. So when you drink that water, then you're bringing love and gratitude into your body.
I mean, I feel better. I'm not drinking that water right now, but I just feel better hearing that idea.
Yeah. Another thing I like about water is I place mine when I can outside in the sunlight.
Okay.
So say in Manhattan, where I live, the water comes from 80 miles north of us or 60 miles north of us and goes through these dark 100-year-old pipes. And it doesn't see sunlight for potentially days before it gets to your home or building. And that's not the way millions of years ago we were drinking water. We always drank water up until a couple hundred years ago that had been blessed or graced by the sun. So imagine how dark that water becomes over time. So when I have the chance, I fill a big glass pitcher up and I set that in the window or set it outside on the patio and give it some sun bolstering, and then I drink that. It's like eating lettuce. Lettuce is just absorbed sunlight.
Yes, and that would never have occurred to me, that this journey that us humans put water through in certain parts of the world like that. And I suppose what you're dealing with here is the attenuating or moderating the human effect on all of these things, on water, on food, how we live, what we wear, all those things.
Right. And it's also, once again, about setting the intention. If you set the intention in the water and then you bring that water into your body, you're actually metabolizing that intention. Similarly, when I'm in the bathtub and I fill it with a lot of salt, I visualize and I create in my mind an imagination setup where if there's negative vibes or negative energy in my body, I let the salt in the water pull it out of me like a magnet. So I visualize that the salt particles in the water are magnets and they're pulling negative energy out of my body. And then what I'll do is I'll still staying in the bathtub, I will pull the plug and I will let that water, I will feel the water drain away from me. And I end up in an empty bathtub, knowing that whatever negative energies I put into the salt is now in the sewer. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a bathtub, which sometimes I don't, I do a similar principle in the shower. and you imagine that the shower particles and the water particles in the shower stream are cleansing your auric field, for example. You send the negative energy in your body out into your auric field, and then you let the water carry it down the drain away from you. It's a very simple thing you can do in a daily process, meaning you're going to take a shower relatively a few times a week at least. When you do that, you set a small intention, you take an extra minute or two, and you do an energetic cleansing. So,
fascinating. And this I suppose is bringing in, the part of this conversation, of course, is to include the idea of ritual. And I was asking you questions there on a sort of very rational basis, wasn't I? What sort of water, what sort of food, but you're bringing in this extra dimension of it. It's not just what you put in your body, it's kind of how you put it in your body, or the energetic circumstances surrounding that, i.e. ritual. And we, correct, as human beings in the modern times, we've kind of separated ritual or completely forgotten about it. So, but you haven't. Well,
I try not to. I think about it, and then I try to implement these things. One of the concepts I talk about in my practice is medication with intention.
Okay, tell us more.
A lot of my clients come to me and they say, "Oh, I'm taking this pill my doctor gave me. I don't really even know what it's for." Or I'm taking this pill for my brain because my brain energy is imbalanced. That's what the doctors tell me, et cetera. And I say, don't just take a pill blindly. Set the intention, set the placebo effect in effect. Yeah. So you take that pill and you say, I'm taking this pill because, and then take the pill. Don't just blindly have a Pavlovian bell ring and say, oh, it's 3:00. I got to take my pill. Well, you forget even why you're taking that pill, and then your body probably forgets.
Yes.
So connect with the intention of why you're taking a medication. Because a lot of my clients come to me because they don't want to be on these types of pills.
Well, so it's bringing in that mindfulness and purposefulness back into our lives, which presumably our ancestors would have been better at than we are, maybe.
Yeah, and maybe they weren't better at it, but it was more natural for them. They were doing things more naturalized. Like there's these memes out there that say, your grandma didn't have organic food. She just had food.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And there's that famous visionary, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but she said, whoever thought growing food with poison would be a good idea?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are all things we can do, is just think about what you're doing to yourself and why, and change several or some of those habits. It's going to have a culminating effect, I think.
Well, it sounds like it sounds very purposeful and powerful to do this. So what else do you do on this sort of ritualistic basis? If, let's say, you're leaving the house to go into the world, which, for a lot of people, that will be quite an energetic onslaught, whether they know it or not. How do you prepare yourself? I mean, we know how you might start the day at home, but how do you go out into the world, and what preparations or rituals would you employ there?
Yeah, I mean, going to the grocery store these days is like a...
Yes, indeed.
It's like a whole event. Whereas before, I was popping out in the store for something. Now you're like, I got to go to the grocery store. You got to plan, you got to prepare, you got to protect yourself now. One of the things I do if I'm just going for a walk, which I highly recommend people go outside in this day and age of COVID, get some sun on your face. Get out between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. and get some sun on your face.
Okay.
And if you're just going for a short or longer walk, leave your phone at home. Don't be tethered to this device that we're always tethered to, that's something you may be preoccupied with. So if you really want to have an intentional walk, go ahead and leave your phone at home. Nothing's going to happen that can't be settled in the next 45 minutes. So it's really cathartic. I mean, I used to leave the house without my phone by accident and think, oh my God, oh crap, I left without my phone. And then my body started to settle down a little bit because I knew I wasn't tethered to that.
Yes. It's like a little sort of taser device, isn't it? A sort of personal tasering of constantly exciting us, or, fear of missing out. And then a message comes in, you get that little hit of whatever it is that the social media companies love so much. But I can see how we would be better off without that, at least for a little while during the day.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. It's a tremendous feeling to purposely leave your house without your phone. Okay. It's scary to do it by accident. It's really emboldening to do it on purpose.
Yeah, great advice. Anything else then, ritual-wise, for you as you go out? Yeah, because you're right. In the COVID age, there are rituals now, aren't there, that we've been asked to do. Like the washing of the hands and keeping safe distances and stuff. What else do you bring to that mix?
One of the things I do when I work with clients, and I tell this to some of my empathic clients, is I put clove oil on my spleen.
Okay.
So clove oil is generally a natural protectant. Don't put it on directly, meaning direct clove oil. You want to use a carrier oil or some sort of diluted oil, olive oil, sesame oil, castor oil, argan oil, one of these oils. And then what I do is I put I put it on a roller, a lip roller, and I will just put clove oil, diluted clove oil on both sides of my spleen. So in the front, below my left breast, and then behind my shoulder blade in the back. Right. Or my mid back. And that for empathic people is just a way to protect yourself, because the spleen chakra is really the empathic chakra. It's the one it's the satellite dish for a lot of empathic people. And they get really gummed and clogged up when you're around people that you're not interested in being around energetically. Or if you do work in the energies like I do it as a protective mechanism. I'm wearing it right now.
Is that protective and cleansing?
It can be both, correct. When you first start to do it, I've heard people say it's like you're taking a sighing breath. Like you put it on and you can automatically feel this, your body starts to calm down a little bit.
Okay.
Another thing I do with clients that I tell, and when I work, is I wear silk. There's something about the process of the energy of silk that is very calming and soothing to the energy fields.
Fascinating, because silk is associated with ritual, isn't it? And the more glamorous aspect of doing a ritual and the finest materials. But it isn't just for finery, then, is it? It's just there is a practical basis to it.
For me, energetically, there's a very practical basis why most of my sweaters are silk sweaters. Yeah, okay. And I wear them at least 5 times a week. I wear them when I'm working on other people's energies. Not all the time. Sometimes I wear a wool sweater. But what I don't do is wear synthetic fabrics. Okay. So it's really difficult for me to sense the energy. It's not as difficult. It's just more challenging to sense the energy in the room or around me wearing a synthetic.
Right.
So I see a lot of people going to yoga class wearing plastic clothing.
Yes.
And I just think, there are better ways to go about putting fabrics on your body when you're energetically sensitive. If you want to block energy out, then certainly wear plastic clothes. But if you want to feel more, you get that sense of the hippie in the hemp pants.
Yes.
The hippie and this and that. But if you're going to wear man-made materials, meaning like polyester, rayon, things like that, it's going to impede the energy that you sense in the room or in the universe.
Okay, that's worth thinking about. I mean, you mentioned there empathic people, possibly at the moment. We could describe as there is an assault energetically on people, isn't there? Of fear and so on. People will be feeling quite awkward, fearful, and so on. What else can they do, Scott, at this time in history to help? I mean, as well as what you've just said, what else might they consider?
Yeah, when I work, I use witch hazel and lavender in a spray bottle. So I take a glass spray bottle and I fill it with witch hazel and then maybe 20, 25 drops of lavender oil. You do it to smell, when it stops smelling like witch hazel and starts smelling like lavender, that's kind of where you want to stop.
Yeah, that's a good guide.
But it is an amazing calming agent. If you're doing any sort of energy work or Reiki or you're overly sensitive, you can spray your hands with it or spray your neckline with it. And it just automatically, it calms your energy down. Mm-hmm. It's kind of miraculous. Witch hazel is like the psychic energetic negator. It negates some of the hyper energy around you or in and around your body.
Okay, amazing. So breathing, we need to talk about breathing, don't we? It's the basis of any sort of energetic work, it would seem. What do people need to remember about to breathe, obviously, first, but what the greater sophistication of breathing, please, for empathic people and your approach to it?
Well, breathing into your pelvis. Start at the root, start at the base. Taking a deep breath is one thing, but breathing into your perineum, breathing into your genitals or your anus is really a great way to spend 15 seconds not only calming your energy, but being grounded in your body. So if somebody says, oh, I'm experiencing energetic overwhelm, first thing I'll say is breathe into your pelvis. Try to get the chi and the energy and the belief that your energy is moving when you breathe down through your body, below your belly button, and try to get it to the base. And if you can do that, your body will calm down, and then you'll be more available to the world.
Amazing.
Another thing you can do is take magnesium. Magnesium is such an important part of our diet. And unfortunately, with modern farming practices, the magnesium doesn't get back into the food because it's no longer in the soil. As ubiquitous as it used to be, the current farming practices have siphoned out the magnesium in the soil, so it's no longer nutrient rich in the foods we're eating. So it is kind of beneficial to take a magnesium supplement, especially if you're energetically sensitive, or you're going into a situation where it's best to be calm.
It's remarkable. My wife massaged our children's feet with magnesium the other evening, and they slept in. Gives you a good night's sleep, right?
It's absolutely amazing how much magnesium is not in our systems. That should be, as I said, talking about even 100 years ago, the farming practices were completely different, and the magnesium was in the food we're eating. It no longer is. It needs to be supplemented now.
Okay. Good tip there with magnesium. You mentioned the hippie stereotype of the yoga with the hemp pants. Staying on that sort of theme, tree hugging. Good to do or not to do? Is that just a useless sort of stereotype, or is it actually, might it be a good thing to do?
It's an incredible thing to do.
Okay.
Find your favorite tree and go in there and give it a big hug. Just wrap your arms around it, lift your shirt up, put your belly up against the tree. What I tell people is to find a tree that might be slightly leaning and lift up the back of your shirt and just lay on the trunk of the tree with the skin of your back exposed to the bark. You want to get your energy connected to the tree. The tree is so grounding, and trees have a way of wanting to receive energy, regardless of whether they don't consider it positive or negative. They'll receive anything. They're like a goat. They'll just put it in their body and process it. So go hug a tree. Go place your hands on something alive. Do some gardening if you can. It is so grounding to get your hands and feet on the earth. So that brings us to earthing. Earthing and grounding is so important. I work with a grounding mat, either on my chair or under my feet when I work with clients, because it helps ground my energy. And then at nighttime, I have a grounding mat that you plug into the wall. In America, we have grounded electricity. So there's a third prong hole, and you can just buy these things online, these grounding or earthing mats, and they actually will ground you to the earth, whether you're a couple stories away or in your second floor of your home. You can still connect to the grounding energy through the electrical wires. And so these earthing mats or these grounding mats, I find them almost imperative to work with. They're really a nice way to feel that grounding energy without doing anything.
Yes. All right. That sounds like an amazing tip. Grounding mats. Okay. Note made about that. What you've reminded me of there is people working from home and being sat in front of the computer. So many Zoom calls. Yeah. What's the way to prepare for that? Being in front of the computer so much of the time. That's
another reason why the grounding mats are so important, because they help negate or balance out some of the radiation we get from our electronic devices.
And I'm bringing together a sort of ritual in my mind, approaching the computer, because that's work. It needn't be part of my sort of spiritual life, but actually being on the grounding mat, being in your chair, breathing into your pelvis, having a glass of water. These are all important things where we can ritualize that in a positive way, right?
Definitely. It's the intention behind why you're doing these things. Using your imagination to create a framework that this is helping me. The ritual I'm doing is to benefit me and my energy.
Yes.
And guess what? It's going to benefit you and your energy if that's your intention.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So remember that as you step up to the computer or your next teleconference. So towards the end of the day, then presumably you have rituals. We've talked about food. We've talked about eating, gracing food, and all of these other ideas here, Scott. So coming towards the end of the day, presumably other rituals, other approaches that you would share with people, recommend for people?
Sure. One of the things I say is keep electronics out of the bedroom.
Right.
Don't go to bed with your iPad next to you on Wi-Fi mode or your phone. Put those somewhere else in another room and sleep in your bedroom. Draw your shades, keep it dark, and let your body do what it's supposed to do.
Yes.
The blue light that electronics give off throw off the eyeballs, throw off the nervous system to the point that it can disrupt sleep. So if you can, steer clear of a blue light for a couple hours or at least 45 minutes before you go to sleep, and don't bring your phone in the bedroom.
Okay.
It's just a really nice thing you can do for yourself that says, oh, I'm disconnecting. I'm giving my body the rest it needs. I'm giving my brain and my eyeballs the rest that they need.
Okay, another positive intention there. That's a note to self for me, for sure.
Oh, yeah. One of the big things about the bedroom that I tell people a lot is putting salt by the bed, like a little dish of salt, maybe the size of a tuna fish can, maybe a little bigger. Putting salt by the bed at night allows your subconscious and your energy field when you go to sleep will sometimes try to leave your body and go out in the world looking around, right? Imagine when you sleep, your spirit's going to go off into the universe and go looking around. Mm-hmm. When it comes back into your body in the morning or during the sleep cycle, putting the salt by your bed is sort of like a doormat. It's going to wipe your energy's feet, if you will, before you bring it back into yourself.
Oh, wow.
So it works for small children who are experiencing night terrors. It works for people who can't sleep through the night or if there's a full moon. A lot of times I refer people to do this and I hear back the next day, I can't believe how well I slept. It's unbelievable how well I slept by just simply putting salt by my bed. Or my children haven't slept well in months and I put salt by their bed and they've slept through the night 3 nights in a row.
Yes, and I guess part of that, again, is the intention, isn't it? And the conscious matter of doing it. And that focuses the mind into the outcome you might want, possibly.
Definitely. And when you go to bed and you see that bowl of salt, you say, oh, I know why that's there. That's the doormat that if I leave, I'm going to come back and I'm going to run it through the bowl of salt and I'm going to cleanse myself before my energy comes back into my body. One important thing about that is you want to replace it every 3 or 4 nights, the salt, and you don't want to throw it away in your kitchen or down your drain where you cook food.
Don't use it.
Don't use it, and don't throw it away where you eat. You can throw it down the toilet and flush the toilet. You can throw it in the garbage. But don't throw it in your kitchen garbage and don't throw it down your kitchen sink because you don't want to bring those energies back into your body. You've already left them where they belong, and that's, being held in the salt. With the intention of discarding those energies, throw the salt away or flush the salt down the toilet. Good
point. Okay, you mentioned earlier on, given that we're talking about rituals, and I think you were suggesting that people play with it. Think of their own rituals, because I think a lot of people are thinking, well, what's the right thing to do here? What encouragement can you give to people in setting their imagination free with this?
Yeah, the right thing to do is use your imagination. Create in your mind where the energy's moving, and the energy will go there. Uh-huh. Like, it's proven that we create our reality partially by observing it. Well, a similar vibration or similar intention is set the intention that whatever you're doing, whatever ritual you've just designed in your head, is there to help you or cleanse you. For example, there's a walkway. We have a ramp walkway near my house. And when I go out for my walks, the walkway is a ramp and it's got about like these 8-foot tall walls, open ceiling, like it's out in the open, it's out in nature. But there's these walls. And when I enter the ramp, I think, okay, I'm going to take the energy in the back of my chakras, which is generally other people's energies that get stuck to us. And I'm going to start sending it off to the walls of this pathway. And so as I walk down this pathway, I'm exhausting or pulling energy off the back of my chakras. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And I like how you've used your actual environment to co-opt, into this process for you.
Oh, yeah. Or if you have a certain walk that you go on and you see a tree, then implement that tree into your ritual. Yeah. But whatever you find around in your own environment, it can work for you if that's the intention that you set.
Yes.
But one of the best things you can do is engage the childhood imagination.
Yes.
By engaging that childhood imagination, that's where creation and intention meet. It's really powerful to create that intention and then sort of live by it, knowing that it's giving back to you. It's more than just the placebo effect.
No, I get it. And what you're reminding me as well, I'm sure with other people hearing this as well, it's not necessarily about the form of the ritual. It is, to underline this point, it is about the intention, isn't it? That is much more important than, the specifics of what you do.
Correct. Yeah, and everything isn't going to work the same for everybody.
Yes.
So if you read a book by your favorite psychic and they do something, maybe that's not exactly going to work for you. So tweak it to make it your own. Don't be so dogmatic that it has to be someone else's ritual. Really, you have the power inside of you and the imagination to create your own.
Great. Okay. And in terms of daily rituals, in terms of daily behavior habits to get into, there's something I wanted to ask you about, because we've talked a lot and you've pulled me up on this before, is certain words that you've kind of winced a little bit at that I might have said. And this is, we hear that with other people, don't we? It's like swearing might be something like that. You hear someone swear and you wince a little bit at the ferocity and the energy. It's basically the energy in the words, isn't it? Should we be thinking of not swearing too much or using the right vocabulary that doesn't have these kind of energetic drains or spikes in our speech?
Definitely. I call this watch your words. The meaning behind the words is just as important as the energy you're putting behind the intention of saying it, right? Swearing isn't bad on its own right. I like to swear. It has its place in our society. It has its moment in time to drop an F-bomb or to, you can use it as an exclamation point. Okay. So swearing isn't so negative. It's the negative words that are negative, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So a lot of times we are just accustomed, our colloquial expressions tend to point towards the negative. So be a little more hypersensitive, be a little more aware of the word you're using. And the example I said with your wife a while back is don't turn out the lights, leave the lights on. So you're using affirming words or non-negative words to use the same example. Some of the other words out there, the word when you said words that make me wince, one of the words that make me wince is the word hack.
Why?
That word, because if you think about what it means like to steal or to be somehow cut a corner or be
steal. Yes, I get it.
If you really think of where that word comes from, it means I want to do less work and I want to get the same out of it.
Yes.
So why not say optimize?
Yes. Yes.
Right? I want to optimize my experience, not I want to hack into the system. That's like saying I'm breaking into something and stealing something that's not mine.
Yes.
You're totally deserving of taking a 15-minute ritual and turning it into a 3-minute ritual. What you've done is you just optimized your energy and your time. You didn't hack anything. And if you did, then you kind of might feel bad afterwards because you just stole something.
Or cheated. Yeah, I get it.
Or cheated. Yeah. So that term is so overused and ubiquitous in our society, and it really makes me wince because what you're trying to actually do is optimize your time and energy.
Yes.
But what you're telling your peers is, I'm okay with thinking that I'm stealing this.
Okay. Point taken, sir. Yes, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Protect yourself. Create an intention that protects your energies. When you're around a situation or a family that you know is going to be challenging, create a bubble of energy around you. Just because you're empathic doesn't mean you have to feel everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. That would be an assumption that you can understand why people would make that assumption though, right?
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. Well, it's commonplace. Oh, I since I can do this, I should. And that's very, that puts you in a very vulnerable position, especially for empaths, over feelers. If you're oversensitive, be aware of that and take certain precautions. One thing I tell people to do is create a disco ball in their mind and then go into that meeting or go into that family setting or go into the subway. And then you're not picking up on everyone's vibes. You're sending them back to them.
It sounds rather fabulous as well, I have to say, to enter a room or a situation, cloaked in a disco ball. I'm sure that would bring an added dimension to your personal energy as well, doing that. I'm going to try it.
It really does. It's a simple exercise. It's a simple visualization you can do, but it kind of works because it is so simple. It only takes 13 seconds to visualize it before you go into the crowded bank where everyone's cranky, for example.
Specifically 13 seconds. That's interesting choice of number.
Well, 15 seconds, 13, it doesn't take a long time. Once you get in the habit of creating that disco ball, it becomes yours.
Yes.
And all you really need to do is just re-engage with that belief system that it can't exist because you've created it in your imagination.
And of course, you can optimize, like you said before.
You can definitely optimize the time it takes to do these things. Yeah.
Yes,
exactly.
and they become habit and very sort of closely, habitually used rituals, and you can just assume it and feel it in an instant, I suspect.
Correct. And it takes a lot less work when you do these intentionally and you do them repeatedly.
Yes. Yeah.
It becomes ritualistic, commonplace. It's a really nice way to ground you and keep your energy your own. So one of the things that I use personally, and I definitely tell other people to do, is get a flower of life. The flower of life. Do you know what that is? It's the interlocking circles, sacred geometry symbol.
Yes.
So I got this from my friend Carolyn Rao Carter, who's a feng shui aficionado. She's one of the experts in feng shui in America. She wrote the book, Move Your Stuff, Change Your Life.
Yes.
So she's a consultant for all things feng shui, if your house, things like that. And she came over to my house and I told her, this is where I work and this is where I sleep. And we did this thing. And she said, you know what you can do because of the cell tower next door and just to guard your own energies is put a flower of life under your mattress or under your work chair. So what I do is I print out that flower of life on an 8.5 by 10 piece of paper with an unobstructed circle. And I place them under where I sleep. I place them under where I work. If I'm doing a clearing of someone's shop who's the massage therapist or physical therapists, I'll bring a couple printed out and I'll tape them underneath their massage tables, for example. And what that does is it sends out to the universe that you're trying to organize the energy around you. So you can know that tree of life is under there and you can imagine that tree of life expanding three-dimensionally and creating like a bubble of protection around you. So what I'll do is I'll put a link on the show notes here. So go ahead and look at the show notes. You can just click on that and print them out for yourself.
Oh, that's really helpful.
And it's just a nice little booster, a nice little way to acknowledge that you're paying attention to your own energy and protecting it.
Excellent. Wow. It's been so great talking to you again. Looking forward to talking more in this season 2 of the Intuitive Energy podcast with Scott Clover here. It was all about intuition and interpersonal dynamics in season 1, which you can still hear on the internet, of course, at all good podcast delivery services. Season 2, we're moving into intuitive care, development, and the importance of self-acceptance. And we talked about rituals, intentions, and the imagination today. So thank you, Scott. Looking forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks, Carl. To the Intuitive Energy Podcast with me, Scott Clover. Thanks to Carl Munson for the great discussion and to Corey Tutt for the music you're listening to. In my private practice, I encourage people to heal what holds you back and feel better in your body. If you need more help with that process, I'm available for healing sessions by phone internationally. Visit scottclover.com for more information. Be well, and thanks for listening. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only, and solely as a self-help tool for your own use. I'm not providing medical, psychological, or nutrition therapy advice. You should not use this information to diagnose or treat any health problems or illnesses without consulting your own medical practitioner. Always seek the advice of your own medical practitioner and/or mental health provider about your specific health situation. For my full disclaimer, please go to scottclover.com/disclaimer.